presenter is Rasmus Gaupp-Berghausen from Austria. He's the outgoing president of the International Light Association, which is our parent body. Rasmus started out as an agricultural engineer, and for some reason which entirely escapes me, he found himself in Japan, where he met up with Masuru Emoto, whose work many of you will be familiar with. Emoto wrote the book, The Message from Water, which should probably be better, The Message to Water. Some of the things that Emoto did, you would have a glass of water, and if you were grateful and you said, "You're beautiful, you're going to nourish me," the crystal that could be made from that would be symmetrical and beautiful and glowing and wonderful. And if you went, "Oh, wouldn't even wash dishes with you, you're rotten stuff," the crystal would be disturbed and dirty and things like that. And Rasmus worked very closely with Emoto and found a great developing interest in energy. And of course, Emoto has the Hado Institute, and Hado is wave, so wave energy. And Rasmus went on to explore things, and he discovered that each of us has what you might call our own barcode, which is in sound and in colour. And he's developed a program called The Sound of Soul, which he's going to tell us all about now, and in his workshop on Monday as well. So Rasmus.
So, wonderful. Just, I have 50 minutes, that's right, for the lecture. Okay, because my lecture normally goes much longer. Last lecture in Switzerland took 6 hours, so I'll try to make it short. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's the first time for me to be in Australia. It was always a big dream to come here, and on Tuesday I'm going diving, so I'm looking very forward to all the exciting time here. Well, Lynn beautifully talked already a little bit what I'm doing. I will talk today a little bit about water, not so much about water. The main work today, what I'm doing, is the translation of the heart frequency into sound and light. My background, as you heard, is agricultural science and also ecology. I studied almost 10 years in different universities, Austria, Denmark, and in America, all about water chemistry. And I was invited by Dr. Emoto to Japan. And when I met him the first time, I thought, what a nonsense. You pray to water and it changes. When you come from water chemistry, you think this is completely a hoax. And well, anyway, I was invited to Japan and I made all kinds of testing, and it didn't work as good as Emoto claims. But one thing works amazingly, and that's sound. If you apply sound to water, it changes right away. So this was actually, let's say, the reason why I continued working with Emoto. Let's see if this works. Yes. I'm not going to talk a lot about the crystals. I just want to give you a little bit information about it so that you can become your own expert in that. Emoto himself, he never made a water crystal. He had this great idea and he had different people making the testing. I was one of them, and he asked me to open his laboratory in Europe, so I was in charge of his laboratory many years. I run it up to today, and at the same time I traveled a lot with Emoto. So I was traveling with him more than 11 years all around the world, and the beautiful thing was always when a scientist came to me, he sent the scientist, or came to Emoto, I have to say, he sent them to me because Emoto wasn't a scientist. He always said he preferred to talk about love and light and beauty, but not about standard deviation and t-tests and all kinds of scientific stuff. So he sent them to me, and it was a great time. And then Emoto was invited to Russia, and he didn't want to go to Russia because Russia is a country where they illegally copied all his books. 17 different books were published in Russia without asking him. So he was quite upset about the publisher in Russia. So he said he's not going to Russia. And he was invited there, so he asked me if I want to go there. And of course I want to go to Russia. And so I went to Russia, and I got stuck in Russia. So I stayed almost 4 years, every free second in Russia. I went more than 40 times to Russia, and I think it's an amazing country in relation to, let's say, new ideas. And the beauty is also in Russia is that new ideas are very open, accepted. So I was allowed to give lectures in universities, while in Europe everybody is more or less closing down when we talk about beauty and structure. But anyway, so it was great, and laterwards I stumbled over a technology which is called Heart Rate Variability. Maybe you heard about this. It's getting more and more popular nowadays. And on Monday I will have a 3 hours lecture where I go into detail with that. I say it's your own responsibility to know about heart rate variability, because that's, I would say, is your pension. When you get retired and you have a high heart rate variability, this makes sure that you can enjoy your last years much better than when you have a very little variability. Well, let's back to the crystals. I have to see if the remote works. Okay. The most important thing about the water crystal is the center. So when you see water crystals, and there are many people nowadays around the world making the crystals, and I've tested so many different waters. More than 3,000 samples were sent to me the last many years. And the most important thing when you make a water crystal is the center, the emptiness of the center. The surrounding, actually you can just say it's the decoration. The center is the important thing. Because there are so many machines on the market claiming they energize the water. And of course there are some technologies which are amazing, but I would say from 10 devices, 9 are completely, let's say, a voluntary donation of money. But they make no sense whatsoever. And we test a lot at the moment 5G. 5G is, I think, one of the biggest experiments on humankind. Very dangerous. But maybe it's also a chance that people wake up and we can change a little. So the interesting thing is when the projector is not so sharp, but when you get a good, I can hardly see it, a good water crystal, and that's the funny things, we also see light inside. Not only light, like bright light, we see colors. So this is, for example, a water. I'm not allowed to tell you what it is, I promised so far, because we're going to publish this soon. But this is one of the best water I tested from Europe. And the amazing thing is when you cannot see it that good, but you see all kind of rainbow colors in the water crystal. So the color is also a quality measurement in all this water research. So first I want to talk a little bit about the quality of vibration. We talk a lot about vibration, of course, when we work with light. A lot of people use words like resonance and coherence and entrainment. And I want to a little bit explain this. What is quality itself? I studied so many years in different universities testing water. And normally when we test water, we test everything except the water. We test the nutrients, the pesticides, the pH, but we don't test the water itself. It's like if I would test all of you and say there are here 100 people inside, average weight is, I don't know, 100 pounds or whatever, and I would say nothing about you. I would just talk all about, but not about you. And that's the same about water. So when I studied, I got specialized in radioactive labeled hormones in the water. Very accurate science. And I thought the more we can clean the water, the better the water. But it's actually just the quantities, it's not the qualities. Quality is always you have to study vibration. And about vibration, very brief, you heard about overtones, I think, all of you. So when you close the eyes and your mother sings a sound and your neighbor sings maybe the same sound and your brother sings a sound, the same vibration, you can hear the difference. Why? Because the overtones are different. So this is a nice sample. That's a lady just singing a sound, a note, and this computer can detect the first couple of overtones, like the octave, the fifth, the octaves, and so on. And based on this vibration, on the overtones, you can distinguish this is, let's say, a cello and this is a violin, even if they play the same basic note. It's tuned to. And now the interesting thing is, this is a... Oh, does not do what I want.
there's a wonderful lady in Germany, one amazing overtone singer. But for me, important what I show you is that the smaller these waves get, the more important they become. When I gave a lecture in Russia with 33 years, they told me what you're doing is like a lie detector. You can measure, you can say I'm guilty or I'm innocent or whatever, but based on the overtones, on the mathematical harmonics, you can say, is this person telling the truth or it's completely nonsense? That's amazing. So, when I worked with Dr. Emoto, I got to a point where I actually wanted to quit working with Emoto, because Emoto couldn't explain me what we are doing. I felt like I'm the magician's, assistant, not knowing at all what we are doing. And then I was very fortunate, I was invited to Egypt, a wonderful professor, his name is Dr. Ibrahim Karim. His daughter is going to give a lecture in Pula, our event. The International Light Association has a big event in Croatia in September, where I hope I will see you all. Beautiful place. And it's about the quality of vibration. And normally when you have a sound, let's say a smoke detector here in the room, and the smoke detector goes off, will you sit here inside and say, oh, this sounds beautiful, I will listen to the end of the sound, or will you run out? You will run out, of course, because it's a sinus wave, and the sinus waves hurts us. In nature, normally we don't have sinus waves. Every wave starts to create overtones. A sinus wave is like a single wave. A sinus wave makes, of course, sense because it activates very strong. But the sinus wave is not the healing wave. The healing are the overtones. And that's the interesting thing, that many people working with waves, they don't understand. They produce devices just emitting a sinus wave. The sinus wave is activating the body, but it's not healing the body. It's like if you're tired and somebody hits you, you wake up, of course, but your tiredness hasn't been solved. Later you need somebody who hits you twice. That's why people start to use more and more devices, all emitting sinus waves, and they wonder why it's not working as good. And the interesting thing is, when I measure the heart rate variability, if your heart rate becomes like a sinus wave, having no variability whatsoever, you're going to die. So you don't want to have a heart beating always the same. But people are selling devices, always sending the same vibration. So they don't know. For me, the most beautiful explanation of life is change in movement. Yesterday we had a beautiful talk. Light is not a constant. Light is a change in vibration. It's not one fixed constant. Anyway, so just a little bit about vibration. And this, I say, if you understand vibration, because light is vibration. And it's very difficult to understand, let's say, maybe the qualities of light if you don't understand the quality of sound, because sound and light is like brothers and sisters. I will show you a little bit later. They're directly related. These are two violins. This violin, made in China, costs at the moment in eBay $16. This violin here is a Stradivari. It's a little bit more expensive. Why do you pay so much money for this instrument and so little for that here? They play the same sound. They play 440, 432 hertz if you just tune it and you measure it. But the overtones are completely different. So the whole composition of the instrument is not only the main frequencies, all the frequencies. So this is for me a very important demonstration here. There's a wonderful guy, his name is Alexander Lauterwasser from Germany. He emits a frequency to a bowl. This is just a snapshot. And you see 30.2462 hertz. It's always the same frequency, but the form changes. Which means this device is quite inaccurate because it can just go 4 digits below 0. But the interesting thing is that water is so accurate, it can go much more detailed. So the machine, when it rounds up or down, it makes the biggest mistake. So the water molecule, every second, makes up to 1 billion movements. You have to understand, in one single raindrop, you have more water molecules than humans on this planet. No human has ever seen one water molecule. It's just the Bohr, Niels Bohr made a nice model with the balls, but this is just a model. Nobody has ever seen a water molecule. You cannot put it under the microscope, one single water molecule, fix it, attach it. You can see it. You can measure the vibration, but you can see a single one. But the interesting thing is, every life on this planet derives out of the water. No matter if it's a bacteria or a dinosaur or a human, we need water. So water has the ability to change vibration into form right away. Many scientists tell us what you're doing is not scientific because you get not two crystals which are the same. I say, well, try to make two kids which are the same. It won't work. Because the moment a fertilized egg starts to divide, the vibration is the same, and the vibration is unique, sorry, really nonsense. The vibration is unique, and the child, the output is unique. So on a big tree, you have not two leaves which are the same, even if they have the same DNA. So the DNA is not the whole information. The DNA is actually the working tool. Yes? So the water, and now it goes further. I went to Japan just recently 2 times again, because there's a wonderful professor in Japan. Her name is Romjana Tenkova. I met her at the last ILA conference in Oslo, and she can measure the infrared light in the water. And it's so amazing what science is going to show in the next couple of years. So for me, it's just important to show that water can react on vibration, and the smaller the vibration, the bigger the effect on the form-giving process. And light is a vibration, as you know. And the smaller the vibration, light is much smaller, faster than, for example, sound. So light has a huge effect to the water and finally to your body. It is changing actually the pH of your body. We don't have time to talk about this, but the interesting thing is your heart pumps about 5,000 liters of water or more, not water, blood, in your body. And to calculate, I did this once, how much energy you use to pump 5,000 liters from one barrel to the other, you need more than 2,000 carbohydrates. But now you start to move, you grow, you think, you digest. You need much more energy than you can eat. You can actually not eat as much energy as you need for living. So we need another life source, another energy source. And that's actually the infrared mainly, also other kinds of frequencies. But the interesting thing is that light and other frequencies, they change the pH of your body. Very simple. When you're very angry, in German we say, I get sour. You know this? Sour means a pH loss. You lose electrons. It's just a very simple. So let's jump further here. So water reacts on vibration very fast, beautiful pictures. You can see that water has the ability to change based on vibration. And it's not like that you like music, it's that your body likes sound and your brain is just giving a command. Because the sound changes physical properties in the body. Okay, so now let's talk very simple about resonance. I just tried to introduce a little bit, but you understand what I'm doing today. Resonance is very simple. What is resonance? If I dance with my wife, she has to react on me and I have to react on her, no? So 2 vibrations and we interact, and there is a resonance. Very simple is, and then we get coherent. Coherent means that I react on her and she reacts on me. Which means every vibration tries to get coherent with another vibration. So if you're exposed to 5G, your whole body tries to get coherent with it. Of course. If you stand in the ocean and the waves are rolling to the shore, you start to move with the waves, to become coherent with the wave. Otherwise you would break. Now the problem is that the 5G, or whatever, the sinus wave of this smoke detector, they won't change. So you have to adapt to it. Yes? And resonance, very basically, you have a tuning fork, you hit it, and if the other tuning fork, Vanessa is going and show you a beautiful workshop about tuning forks. Tuning forks have a huge effect on us, of course, of us, our body. But very simple, you have a tuning fork, you hit it, and the other tuning fork starts to vibrate. If the other one, the third one, has not the same vibration, it won't move. And now, the interesting thing is, if it has the same vibration, just 1 octave higher, which means twice as fast, or 4 times as fast, or 8, 16, 32, and so on, always doubling, it also resonates. So this is, I think, the most important phenomena of this planet. It's resonance. And it's just not esoteric blah, it's pure physics. If you make a fist and you shake because you're angry or freezing or whatever, you vibrate about 8 till 12 hertz. If I take a piezometer, it's like a little, pencil, and measure the vibration, that's the range you vibrate. Now the interesting thing is that the Schumann frequency in vacuum is the same frequency. So Mother Earth is vibrating, our muscle cell is getting into resonance, getting coherent, changing the pH inside the cell. There's Gerald Pollack, maybe you heard about Gerald Pollack, wonderful guy. There's another guy in Russia, his name is Vladimir Voikov, genius. They show that the frequency is changing the pH. And if you have two different kinds of pH in the cell, you have electricity. Like in your car, you have the battery, plus minus, from minus to plus the electrons are moving, and between you have the radio. So that imagine you have the Mother Earth vibrating. You saw it here, very short in the beginning. So Earth is vibrating. These are from the Fraunhofer Institute. So they took a knife, cut out the cells of the person, and they looked under the microscope, and the cells are still moving, even if there's no heart anymore pumping. So the Earth is vibrating, the cells are getting into resonance, changing the pH, and you get electricity. Okay, so let's go further. So the interesting thing is when you have a tuning fork and you hit it, all the other tuning forks starts to vibrate. And this is kind of a free energy. Because if I have a tuning fork and you would have all the tuning forks in your hands too, the tuning fork would not say, okay, with your tuning fork I vibrate and with yours I won't vibrate. They all start to resonate. Yes? And now the interesting thing is the word information means a vibration changed into form. And it's not dependent on the size. Which means, I always explain, if you read the letter A, big on a wall, written huge on the wall, and tiny in your book, do you read more A because it's written big on the wall? No. So size doesn't matter, just a joke. Okay, so the thing is, it gets the same information. So if you see a picture of your grandmother, no matter if it's very little or huge, you have the same information. That's the basic of homeopathy. Homeopathy, Hahnemann, you know homeopathy? He diluted always in musical intervals, but no, most people don't know. He made octaves or fifth, nothing else. He didn't make a dilution 1 to 37.5, because we don't have this interval. He understood that water is vibration, and to understand vibration, you have to study music. Because then you see the interaction between quantity and qualities. Let's go further. What we are doing now is the translation of the heart frequency into light and sound, to sound and light. It's a technology I launched 2011. I'm not like the inventor of the system. It's more than 40 years old. Translation of body frequencies to other frequency ranges. But it was like this, that I had a very big problem with Emoto. Not with Emoto, wonderful guy. He was like a father to me, and we traveled all around. Many times I thought of throwing him out of the car because we were fighting, and next day we were best friends again. But we grow together, and he was a genius. But I had a big problem with making water crystal. When I came from the isotope laboratory from Vienna, very accurate work with reductive substances, and I came to Japan, there were artists working in his laboratory. And I thought, this is a circus, this has nothing to do about science. They didn't know how to make a standard deviation. That's not a scientist. Anyway, they were very good in making water crystals. And I thought during time that some people could not make water crystals. I gave a guy I had in my office the water from Lourdes, Lourdes, and he couldn't make a water crystal. I say, you cannot blame the Lourdes water. I wanted to know why it works and why it didn't work. Until I understood, the moment you go into your brain, it doesn't work. Because the brain separates us. It says we are two. Very simple. If you dance with your partner, beautiful, and you think of your telephone bill or whatever, or how to impress her, you will stand on her foot. Because the brain cannot get coherent. The brain has its function to make a beautiful computer. But the brain cannot solve the problems of our society. Actually, the brain has caused it. Why? Because the brain separates me from you. The result is that me against the whole universe, I have to corrupt you. The brain, very simple example is, if we all clap to a nice song all together, and you think, when is my next clap? You will be out of the group right away, because your brain gets not coherent. Yeah. So the brain, when people are sitting in front of the watch and say, Om Shanti Shanti, this has to become nice, it's not working whatsoever. The moment you go from your intention to your attention, intention means being in attention. It's a prejudgment. You want to change it. In Christianity, there's a very nice saying. It says, your will come through, or something like this.
Any religion probably have the same. But the thing is, the moment you want something, it doesn't work. Because you cannot get in resonance with it. Because the brain separates you. Understood somehow, maybe? Okay. But now the interesting thing is, when I take the heart frequency, and it sounds so esoteric, but it's pure physics. The heart has the biggest electromagnetic field, which means my heart and her heart and your heart, they want to shake together, like two tuning forks. And they don't say, because you're from Hong Kong and you're from Australia, we won't shake together. That's just our stupid brain maybe says, because you're black and I'm white, or I'm green and you're blue, whatever, we won't resonate.
And now the interesting thing is, so the heart always speaks in the present. The thinking process is always a horizontal movement. You cannot sit on your chair and be present and think at the same time. The word present means now, and it means present. Give you a present. The word sensation comes from senses. So if you put all your attention, not your intention, your attention on your senses, you have a sensation which is a present in presence. So you come to the present state. And now the interesting thing, the moment you come into the present state, your heart opens like this. I'm showing this right away. A person who gets in the present state, the heart opens. The moment you go to your brain, it closes. Okay? So I had the problem, I couldn't make the water crystals from everybody. People were getting quite upset, praying 2 days, sending me the samples, paying €300, as I'm sometimes sorry I couldn't get the result, and they were pretty upset. All the praying and whatever. So it was a little bit, like it was difficult. And then I saw when I take the heart frequency, no matter from which person, a 3 months old baby was the youngest so far, and a 103-year-old lady was the oldest I tested so far. I get always beautiful harmonical structures. So I think the heart is always beautiful, even from a dictator, just 30-40 centimeters above. There's something wrong. But the heart itself is in resonance with the surrounding. That's just how it works. Okay, so check time. So we have, when I went to Egypt, and Dr. Karim told me, if you want to understand Emoto, you have to study a monochord. A monochord is the first calculator of humankind. It's just a single string, you pull it, and you see mathematical proportions, law. And very simple is, you have a piano, let's say 256 hertz, whatever vibration, that's not so important right now, and it vibrates 256 times up and down. And now if you press the finger here, and you let the remaining half string vibrate, it vibrates exactly the double. So you have the first overtone, and you have exactly the next do. And if you put the finger here again, and you let 1/4 vibrate, you hear the next do. And now the mathematical sign for infinity, what is it? If you haven't slept in mathematics classes, exactly. It's the lane 8. So mathematics actually derives from music, of course. And now the interesting thing, the word for attention in German is achtsam. Achtsam means being eightful. The moment you are eightful, I can resonate with you and with you and with the water and with the little beetle on the floor and with the stars above, because it's the same vibration, big A, little a. Understand? Okay. And this is the process, what we're doing with the heart frequency. So I'm taking the heart frequency and I start to double the heart frequency until I come to the audible range. And I keep on doubling until I come to the light. Okay? So, and now there's one thing, I call it the secret of the fifth. You know the saying, the quintessence. You know the word quintessence? Why is it quintessence and not octave essence? Or tritonus essence? Why is it quintessence? You know what? Quintessence means the most important thing of something, no? How do you get the fifth? Mathematically, it's very simple. You take a string, and then you divide the string by 3 parts, and you let 2 parts vibrate. Then you hear from the basic note the fifth. Do, re, mi, fa, so. Do, re, mi, fa, so. You hear the fifth. All music therapists around the world, also Vanessa, uses the fifth, of course, because the quintessence, it's the fifth. And now the interesting thing is, how much water are you? You are 2/3 water, and how many fingers do you have in one hand? It's 5. The holy symbol for the woman is the pentagram. If I put the interval of the fifths to the water, I get the best crystals. It's very interesting. So, and now, I'm not going to explain this so much in detail, maybe on Monday if you want, but that's the calculation of sound into light. Actually, Pythagoras did it already, Plato did it, I do it now too. I have a computer, it's more accurate maybe nowadays, but it's very simple. You have mathematics starts by the number 1, no? I would say mathematics, the universe starts by 1 God, 1 whatever. So you have, let's say the string vibrates 1 time. Now you divide it by 2, and it vibrates twice as fast, it vibrates 2 times. Now you divide it again, it vibrates 4. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, and you are by the natural sound Do. And when you keep on continuing this, and these are all the octaves, and these are the fifths. And if you calculate all this number together, what you have the Tesla number. So this light you see here on the table here, you don't see it so good, I have to place it maybe here in the center. This light is translating the frequencies, I just have to see, now I'm going a little bit far away, the frequencies surrounding based on 432 Hz into light. It's just mathematics, very simple. So you have here the fifths, and you have here the octaves, and you have all the lights. If I put them together, you have always the Tesla number 9. 9 is the number of the divine number. Maybe you heard about that number. The first are 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, then you have 3 and 6, and then you have only 9s, always going on. So if I calculate this, keep on doubling, and then divide it by the speed of light, which is 432 Hz by 432 Hz, very interesting too, you get exactly the color. So which means, why did the Indian people know that your heart chakra is green? Have they been drunk, or how do they know this? It's amazing, it's pure mathematics. Why is the heart not red? It looks pretty red, not? Anyway, this is the number 1. We started here, and we keep on doubling, dividing it by the speed of light, and we come to the green. So it's in the first organ, when the cell starts to divide, is the heart. Before the brain, and whatever, the second is the ear, and then it keeps on moving. But the heart is, let's say, the first organ we develop. And 1 is green. So if I have the piano, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and so on, actually I play color. And in English you say sound color, no? You know the expression sound color, which means sound and color are like brothers and sisters. Which means the color green has the same, it's the little a, and that's the big A actually, and the sound A and the color, not A, yes, let's say A, la. La that's a big A, and yellow-orange is the small one. Okay, it's like the same information. And in nature it's like this, that nature always develops in frequency ranges. Your muscle cell vibrates from 2. You hear from 20 to 20,000 Hz. You see your eyesight from about 400 to 800 nanometer. So every organ, you can say, or every life has its spectra. And now it's like this, that sound is the spectra we react the strongest. If you're exposed to 5G, you don't start to dance to 5G. Because it's, of course your body reacts on it, but if you listen to Strauss, let's say, to a waltz, your body will right away want to get coherent. When you hear the waltz, Danube, Blue Danube, beautiful waltz, you cannot dance rock and roll to it. Because you want to get coherent. You cannot dance in another rhythm, because the CD player won't change, so you have to adapt to it, to become coherent. Okay? So now further to the light. This is the light I developed with partners. I work with several universities. I just see myself just as a midwife, bringing all this together, because there's so many great people out there, and I try to put it together. And we know when you make a vortex, the water structure changes right away. Your blood moves in the vortex. The sound out of my mouth is moving in the vortex. And so vibration moves in the vortex. And so I just developed a water light where you can put your heart frequency into this, and then you translate it. So you have a nice, let's say, I didn't bring it because it's too heavy, but how to say, then you have your heart frequency to that. The next thing we developed is a light free of pulsation. So normally LED light is pulsing. And pulsation means always the same frequency patterns. And now the problem is, in life there is never a repetition. Repetition means death in the universe. if there is one snowflake in one time in the universe, which is exactly the same like the second one, the universe will collapse. That's my philosophy. Because then life has ended. Life is change in movement. And you are alive not because you're thinking, because we know 95% of your thought is repetitive garbage. You have thought the same yesterday about your neighbor. It's very rare that you have the big eureka, I found something here. Thinking is very repetitive. But your heartbeat is new. Every heartbeat. You have not two heartbeats in your life which are the same. This is why you are alive. I always say, my wife, we are married 20 years, but I have every second a new wife. Because she's never the same. This is life, it's always new. And now if I have a frequency, this is what science does not understand. If I emit all this frequency, which is always the same pulsing, I extinguish life. The birds are falling down the trees already from 5G. In Zurich, they're cutting all the trees already. It's amazing. People are so stupid. What they're doing nowadays, I mean, it's amazing. We really have to stand up and do something, because it will be a big obstacle. But maybe it's also a chance that people stand up in front of their couch potato and do something. Anyway, so if you have a light, normally light is pulsating, but an LED light. But we developed an LED light which is free of pulsating. So you have an oscilloscope, and there is no pulsing anymore. If your heartbeat starts to pulse, be very accurate, you get a burnout, in the worst case, a heart attack. So this principle of taking one tuning fork, and the same tuning forks are all resonating if they are in the overtone scale. We do this now with the heart. So we know the autonomic nervous system. You heard already about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Vibrates between 0 and 0.4 hertz, about. This is the range you hear, depending how good you hear, of course. And this is the range we see. So you can imagine this is like a tuning fork vibrating, a little A, let's call it, a door. And this is the same one saying, hey, I'm just the same. And the next one is saying, hey, I'm just the same too. Why am I doing this? Nowadays, we have more than 44,000 defined diseases. Every month we find some new diseases. But we have just one well-being, one health, no? Our body has not, our heart has not two heartbeats which are the same. So it's the source of life, I would say, is the heart, no? And the next thing is, for example, your body makes every second about 40 million body cells. You just made 40 million body cells. How did you do it? You hardly know. But the moment you get afraid is up here, fear, time process, the pH drops. And a disease has very easy to thrive, you can say. So, and for me it's like I want to take the frequency range, which we don't understand so good, the heart, and translate it into a frequency range which everybody understands. The child, no matter what culture you come from, the animal, that's sound and light. And we talked about this the last couple of days. You cannot escape sound. So if I have here, play some sound for you, you have three options. Either you move with the sound, you leave the room, or you turn off the sound. You cannot say, I don't care. Eckhart Tolle, you know maybe Eckhart Tolle, beautiful author, he said in the situation you have three options. Change it, accept it, or leave it. That's just physics. Very simple. So, and now we take this sound. Well, another thing I want to show you is the translation, or I should say angle, not angel. Well, that's actually not such a bad coincidence, but that's another lecture. Because an angle and an angel, if you're very spiritual, you believe in angels. That's fine. I'm more from the scientific part, that's more easy for me. I believe more in angles. Because an angle is equality, 180 degrees equality. Yes? So, the word angel and angle is almost the same. You change the last two letters, and what you have here, the electro. The first god human scratched on a wall in Babylon was El. El was the god of movement, change, vortex. At least that's what I found from Dr. Google. But anyways, this is, so the L is very interesting. And when you have, for example, we made testing in Egypt, when you take a sound source and you take two bars and you just take the bars and you change the angle in front of the speaker, for example, the quality of the sound changes dramatically. amazing, just by an angle. So if you have two water streams crossing in a certain angle, you have sacred water. That's something that I forgot to say. In every culture, no matter for sure in Australia as much as in Austria, it's almost the same, except we have no kangaroos. How to say, and also everywhere in Egypt and everywhere, people distinguish between holy water and normal water. You have sacred water in Australia for sure. And the same have the Inca people in South America. And they didn't make a phone call and say, let's call it holy water. The word holy derives from healing, and if you cannot explain it, you put a God on that. For example, I went to Mecca. I'm not a Muslim. I was not allowed to go directly to Mecca. But under the big, in Mecca you have the big black square. Below that are several springs entering together in the form of a star, and it's one of the most beautiful water we tested. So everywhere in the world you have holy water. So, and if of course you can give it to your belief, which is nice of course, or you can make a research. So the quality is expressed in the shape. So maybe it's not coincident we have an angel here. So if I take a circle has 360 degrees, no? And I can say, okay, let's just translate it into hertz, just as an assumption. I think so. We just say we have 360 hertz, and this is the sound. If I if I take 360 degrees and double it, I would have 720, the first octave. And then if I take a hexagon, the angles altogether are 720. So the hexagon, the snowflake, is exactly the octave of the circle. The pentagram has 180 degrees, and I multiply it by 5, I have 540. And if I multiply 360 by 3 divided by 2, we are 2/3 water, I hear the interval of the fifth. Understood? Try it by yourself at home. So, when we apply the interval of the fifths to the human body, it reacts strongest because we are tuned to that. The shaman, or let's say the yogi in India, is playing the sitar in the fifths. The blues is opening in the fifths, the blue note if you play piano. Mozart ends beautiful in the fifth. We say quintessence, and I translate the light in the interval of the fifth. I have to check time. So let's go to electrocardiography. I don't go to detail. Maybe some people of you have made an AKG already. It's very good to make it, of course. But the AKG has one of the disadvantages. It can only show the damage of the tissue. So you can make an AKG, and the doctor says you are just doing fine. In the worst case, you have a heart attack tomorrow. Cause of death number 1 is the heart attack, followed by stroke, later different diseases. Second is cancer. The third are mistakes by doctors. Statistically. Just take this into consideration and never accept one diagnosis, I would say. Don't give the authority, you are the author. Okay, further. Now we have the heart rate variability. Chinese doctors know since about 2,000 years that your heartbeat is always different. It has nothing to do with arrhythmia. It means just that your heart can accept and, react on the vibration in its surrounding. Biggest effects are, of course, the brain and the breathing, followed by nutrition and other things. So your heartbeat is always different, and the more different it is, the better it is. The more similar the heartbeats become, the more you become a copy from the old one, the worse for you. Okay? So the heart rate variability describes the variation of the heartbeats. And I would really recommend you all to start studying heart rate variability. You can be 70 years old and have such a variability. You can be 30 years old and be close to a heart attack. Burnout, depression. There are 23,000 studies on the market related to heart rate variability nowadays. And anyways, most doctors studying medicine have no idea whatsoever about heart rate variability because they study diseases, not life. And if you focus always on the diseases, that's what you get. If I say, don't think of the yellow elephant with the nice big ears, don't think of this elephant, what are you thinking about? Okay? Good. So we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nerve, and the sympathetic is when you're very active. For example, when you breathe in, I go into the sympathetic state. When you meditate, you relax, you go to breathe out, you go to the parasympathetic state. And the problem in our society, we are a sympathetic dominant society, and we train like the bodybuilder our heart into the heart attack. Because now the interesting thing is, I call it the similarity between brain and eyes. If I look on my finger, I cannot look into your eyes. Either I look here or I look into your eyes. The same is with your thought. You cannot say 2 + 2 is 4 and later let's go and have some fun. Go and drink a beer. You can do it one after another. You can do it not at the same time. Women can do 2 things at the same time, but not 2 thoughts. Nobody can. My wife can do 2 things at the same time, but we cannot have 2 thoughts at the same time. So the moment you focus, and that's not only with the eyes, with the brain, your heart closes. So I can see the moment you think, the heart closes. And the problem is, the less the variability, the more problems you have. Imagine you get a heavy diagnosis. Like, you go completely into your mind, why me, why there? The variability completely drops. And the doctor is right if telling you have 2 weeks left. But if you come to the present state and start to relax and let go, but the brain cannot relax, the thinker cannot say to the thought, stop thinking. But the moment you put your attention on the senses, and the most elegant sense is the ear. We hear 20 times more than we see from the frequency range. The ear is much more talented. On Monday we can go in detail if you want to. Okay, the German word aufhören means ending and listening. 2 meanings at the same time. So the moment you start to listen, let's say the sound of this projector, your brain is quiet. And at this moment the heart starts to open. Maybe 2 seconds later your brain gives a comment and it closes again. But if you keep on listening, the heart variability opens. Okay, I want to have 10 minutes left. A guinea pig here on the stage, and it's the translation of the heart frequency into sound and color. So we take the heart frequency like a tuning fork, and the heart picks the note and the heart picks the color. So your heart starts to heal. What is every mother doing when the child is sick? Is she putting the child to her brain? Or does she put it to the right or the left side? She puts it on her heart. And what does she do? She starts to hum and the child to give it comfort. If the child has to get rid of the milk, you put it here. But if you have to make the child calm, you put it on the left side. So this is the oldest form of music therapy. The oldest medical medicine, the best doctor in the world, of course, is the mom, and she knows what to do. So I would like to have here a guinea pig. I don't know who theirs. Okay, if you want. Just take a seat here. Okay, I need just 2 seconds. So, what I'm doing, I connect a person, I take the heart frequency, like in the EKG, and translate it into sound. So, now here, the light reacts on Susan. So now, I'm translating every 4th heartbeat of Susan into the light. So if the light shines green, her heart just played a do. And I cannot say, dear Susan, play a do again. Because you can, with your mind, of course, interfere with the autonomic nervous system, but you cannot control it. Fortunately, otherwise you would have a heart attack after 3-4 minutes. So I translate her frequency into light. And let's go here. And here I see her heartbeat. She has a beautiful heart rate variability. Not typical for a therapist, because most therapists have very bad variability because they are so stressed. But she's quite cool, but she's doing a very good job. I know nothing about her except I met her in Oslo, but I know nothing about her, but I can right away see she's doing a good job. She's a little bit in a sympathetic state at the moment because we all watch, that's her stress level. We're all watching her heart, but she's very good at the variability. So that's your own responsibility to have a huge variability. I went to Namibia giving a lecture. I had a lady over 70, her total energy was about 7,000. On Monday I'm explaining this. Monday we have time to go to show more people. But Susan has a big, very strong heart, very good. I had people, I was afraid they're dying on stage. No, I'm not kidding. I gave lectures in 40 countries already, so I'm already, if somebody is not looking good, I say, I'm sorry, I take the elbow. But the moment Susan starts to think, her heart closes. Then she starts to focus, But she has such a big variability that it hardly matters. But you see, then it starts, the dots are more closed. So if she gets a diagnosis saying, oh, I'm sorry, you are doing so bad, it will close and close and close, because that's an automatic reaction system. If somebody beats you, what are you doing? You protect yourself. So your brain is, you can say, somehow beating the heart. And if the brain can stop, the heart can do its function. And now let's go and we have the light, and now she can also play her own sound. When I want to. What is happening here with this fellow? Okay. When I launched this 2011, I thought nobody would be interested in that. And last year, the ILA asked me to be president of their community, so I don't know where it's going here. And I myself, I don't see myself as a therapist because I don't know what healing is. I just want to take her vibration and throw her into the ocean of her own vibration. In a frequency range she understands. A baby understands, a dog understands, a pregnant woman. We had a coma patient. After 20 minutes in wake coma, she was humming to her sounds. One coma girl woke up after 3 days connected with the mother. I can connect her, Susan, here with her best friend, or with her child, or with her dog, or with a plant, and she gets resonance. So she would play with the other person, and the two hearts start to interact. We had a coma patient laying in bed 3 years. After 1 hour listening to their own heart, the variability doubled. I just come from Italy. We have 2 hospitals. During heart surgery, the patient laying there, listen to the sounds, get their own light, completely relaxed, and the surgeon is working on their heart. So it's amazing. We have it now in 26 countries, and I still say I have no idea about healing whatsoever. I just see when Susan, now she's very focused, but when she lets go, her heart will double and open. I increased my variability once in 16 hours by 12 times. So, and the beauty is you can play anything. So, and you can see, of course, the success of any treatment because the heart reacts right away. So Susan can, of course, play didgeridoo. And this is a deep drum. Every second heartbeat of her goes into. We make beautiful breathing, like you breathe 4 in, 8 out, Buteyko breathing, Wim Hof breathing, many different kinds of breathing. But we can see when we do a good work how it changes. She can play drum like in the Middle East. Normally, I don't use this for therapy. It's more if somebody's very weak to activate the person. But normally we use very soft sounds like rain, or we have harps and all kinds of different. What should we use here? What should we use? We can use the violin. Normally the violin we first use when the person is in deep relaxation state. But here, Susan's playing violin. And now she's very much in her head, and it hardly is harmonic. But of course, here are 100 people expecting something. The moment the German word Erwartung, expectation means he is waiting. Expectation means he is waiting. The moment she lets go, it will completely become harmonious. Here you see how she plays. So her heart starts to play. Just translation. And On Monday we have more time for detail, but actually, for example, nice is, I love Japan, I went there so many times. I love this one. So, Susan is a very good shakuhachi player. The drum, I usually love the drum. Women react very strong with the drum. Men many times have a lot of difficulties with drum. Women are much better in rhythm. It's interesting. The men more normally give them first heart, so they surrender and they go, and then the heart starts to open. It's very interesting to see how people react. But she has a beautiful heart rate variability. So you're doing really good job. And you can address any sound, if it's a nightingale or if it's Atlantic waves, or the heart is just, and it's kind of a, you can call it a ping pong game. So the heart is playing a sound and you react on this. And the best operator normally are very sensitive women. I have it in 26 countries, and the best operators, some men are not that bad either, but you need somebody who's able to listen. So I'm not interested in about this disease. I want to show the liveliness in sound cover. And we had, for example, in the maternity ward, I'll show you here. You can disconnect if you want, Susan. I go back to the presentation because I have 0 minutes left. Just the last couple of slides. Thank you so much. You have the third one on the left side. Okay. So this is how it works, and this is more in detail. I will explain in Monday how it works. Thank you very much. And jump over that. And this is, for example, a guy. He had several heart attacks. He told me in the States, it was a convention in Santa Fe. He told me, my heart tries to kill me. I said, your heart doesn't try to kill you. What kills you is a little bit another place. He was eating donuts. I mean, sugar and heart attack fits perfectly. No water, a lot of short carbohydrates. That's the best. And then stress. Anyways, he was listening to himself, and after a few minutes, his heart, this is doing what it wants on my computer. The heart starts to open. I have here this fellow here. You know, this is the little crab. This crab is right. We have it in Italy on the beach. For sure, you have it here too. When you approach it, it hides here in the shell, no? And you can stand outside and shout, come out, come out. He won't come out. You have to give the little animal comfort that he comes out again. The same is with your heart. If you're always afraid, the variability decreases. We have a saying in German, it means died by fear. So you were so afraid that you died. So if you're always afraid and stressed and bad nutrition, you train your heart to stay in this little protection shell. And the moment you let go, the brain starts to shut up, if I may say so. The heart opens by itself again, because that's the normal state of your heart, to be like that, to be in resonance with all the surrounding. And actually I didn't develop this to heal anybody. I wanted to show that the Palestine and the Jewish and the black and the white and all the people who have problems, the man with his wife, while they argue in the brain, which disconnects the two hearts wants to get coherent. And you cannot solve the problem by the brain. It won't. The brain has caused the problem. Einstein said you cannot change the problems of the world by the causes or by the approaches which has caused them. So this is the whole technology. The word, the coma patient after 3 days waking up. Let's go a little bit further here. This at the very end, I showed it so many times, but I'll show it again. Anyways, this is the mother. This is just how it functions, very simple. Again, what coherence is. This Dutch guy, the genius, he showed that the metronomes, or the pendulums during time, they interact. Like your heart and my heart, they want to get coherent. So, I'm just doing what it wants. Sorry. This is the mother playing with her daughter. Just the heart frequency translated. So you can hear how they interact. Of course they're not the same. but they interact. So mother with child is the best to connect, always. It's amazing, that's like magic. Father with child is not that bad either, but with mother it's very special. So we have it now in so many countries, not in Australia yet, in New Zealand I have one person working with that. This is a maternity ward. They connect women during labor. When the womb was 4 centimeters open, they pressed start. 1/3 of the women fell asleep and the pain went down by 70%. So that's a cancer clinic, that's a big hospital where we do. That was just when I came from Italy. I joined the surgery. I almost passed out. But the guy was just laying there, listening to his heart and relaxing completely. And the surgeon was, of course, very happy because instead of having a very nervous guy with adrenaline, fast pulse, high blood pressure, he has a guy laying there listening to his heart, and the surgeon can work beautifully. So this is biggest psychiatry in Switzerland. We work different places, but the beauty is that these fellows here, they don't understand whatsoever I'm talking about here, but they react, and that's beautiful. So you react, of course, with everybody, and I think that's the function of the heart, is to interact, and that's where science has to go, I think, in the future. And yeah, this is the work, and we see, for example, this two here. After a few minutes, they were both snoring on this cold tile floor here, and they interact. So that's the work, and yeah. So if you have, I don't think we have time for questions, but I'm here all these days, and on Monday, if you want, we can go in detail. I can connect. And what I didn't show yet is we make, of course. If I may have 1 minute, I can show you, for example, if I may, Susan's heart rate variability. So without knowing, may I show yours? Because you're very strong, it's good. If it would be bad, I would show you somebody else. So of course everything is recorded right away. Here we have Susan, here we have her sound, and here we have also her heart rate variability data. I see, for example, without knowing anything, she is a very good breather. She can breathe very good. Most people I connect, they can hardly breathe anymore. They breathe just in the upper part and not down to the diaphragm. I don't know, but you do a very good job there. So, very good. And then, of course, I can make a report and see what is she doing and see all the... Last time I connected you in Oslo, you have been much more stressed.
You told me to see a cardiologist because there was something very wrong with me.
I can't remember, but maybe you did something.
A fortune, but you were right, because I've been having all these double expressos for every morning.
You're doing a very good job. It's really good. I can't remember because I connect so many people. I had last week a fellow, a 20-year-old guy in Switzerland. His heart was so bad, he must have a heart infection, and he didn't know. And I told him, of course I cannot make a diagnosis, go to a doctor, see a doctor, make a good EKG, but you can see a lot. And the beautiful thing is you can see the effect of light to the heart. I can see, because I don't want to believe anybody. For me, belief is romantic conditioned thinking. I want to see, does it change? When Vanessa gives a treatment, I can see how the heart opens. And that's the beautiful, because people want to see, and you react on sound. And that's beautiful, you can see what the heart is doing. Okay, so I say thank you for your patience, and I hope I didn't